they would automatically be assessed the fees for CBI whether they want it or not. And so the intention is that once you come into this area, you would have to pay monies into the CBI program. Unfortunately, while on one hand we are trying to manage the affairs of our island, on the other hand, you have the premier who really does not care how he proceeds. And so the question has been asked about the ability for these persons to vote in our local elections and our federal elections, because you can see quite easily that if you have 10,000 residents within this special sustainability zone, how it can impact our local elections, where we have a population of about 13,500 and maybe half of which are, within the voting age. And so these are issues that we must look at closely, because if they are allowed to participate in voting, if they're allowed to gain their citizenship, and there is no special exemption for them to not vote, then we can see where our area, our local elections can be impacted, and not just by them voting, but also by financial support and how they may be able to influence the elections. And so there is really a major concern. And when Dr. Bartlett mentioned, it's just a little bit over 3 square miles that they're thinking about occupying. When we look at what we're trying to achieve as far as sustainability and food security and being able to be self-reliant, when you carve out this amount of area for that type of development,
Yes.
it means that you have that much less to develop, whether it's in agriculture or some other means to protect yourself. And we have been looking at this in a very strategic way, because we know that we are vulnerable to hurricanes.
Yes.
And And just for example, I can remember when there was a hurricane and the docks were damaged and the food boats were not able to come in.
Mm-hmm.
We must look at the amount of food that we are able to store to be able to sustain ourselves should we be impacted by a hurricane or some other natural disaster. And so, based on what systems we have in place now, it is very difficult to go from what you have now to what is being proposed. And I think the saddest part of this whole situation, I would have touched on it earlier, is that here we have people telling us how they would like to transform our island
Correct.
without the involvement of the local population. And so now, after the legislation has been passed, now after a proposal has been submitted, which you have
Mm-hmm.
seen, now we're hearing about town hall meetings and consultations.
I have to pause you there, Honorable Daniel-Hodge, because I laugh because this is the exact scenario that we have in Barbados. You guys, I have to slip this one in. You would have heard about the the free movement and all of that that's happening and so on. But it's after they started October 1st. Now they are going to have a joint select committee so you can say what you think and all of that, and the cart before the horse all the time, and so but this bill was passed, you said, in late what 2022, 2023.
No, no, no. The bill was passed in August of this year.
in
11th of August.
in August of this year. So what the people were unaware of the contents of the bill? Is that what you're saying?
The first reading of the bill was July 31st.
Yes.
The bill was passed on August 11th.
Wow.
And on August 25th, the Premier made a national address, gave a national address saying that he had received a proposal for the bill for the special sustainability zone that was passed just 2 weeks prior.
So there
Marcia,
was
can I jump in
much
here?
time. Yes, go ahead, Dr. Bartlett.
I just wanted to add the significance of the date because Dr. Janice Daniel-Hodge just made reference to the date that the first reading was, and that
Yes.
was in the heart of what we call our culturama, which is in the festival season. Nobody is listening to Parliament.
Listen, Dr. Bartlett, yeah, I hate to do this, right? Please forgive me, guys. It's terrible when you're interviewing someone and you're interrupting, but I just can't help but do that because we had the same thing. Barbadians, are you listening? This Mia Motley administration, these two bills that could change Barbados forever with the citizen, they have this sneaking in using different words and different terminology, but they're sneaking in a similar citizen by investment portion in the section of the bill. And that was right, I mean, just few days after the biggest thing we have here called Kadooment at Carnival. So I have to insert that because that's important for us to see the playbook Barbados that's happening. Go back, continue, um, uh, Dr. Bartlett. Go right ahead.
Well, yes, I just wanted to underscore the points that my leader laid out. And what we need to do in the context of what has happened here, people need to understand that we have become so dependent on the CBI, and that is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because our CBI started in 1984, for those who are not aware. And so we have been going now for 41 years.
Wow.
And it peaked in 2022 when we got in from just the processing fees, $669 million. And of that, 60%, that forms 60% of the federal government's budget. 60%. That is how dependent we have become on it. And so in 2024, when the CBI collapsed, that is when the bottom fell out. We only, at that point, just collected $218 million. And so what that means is that we're in a mode of desperation. And I think that is what is driving this whole thing. That is what is underpinning the whole discussion as it relates to what is about to happen. And that's why we are saying that our politicians are tone deaf. But the thing is, their focus is on something bigger. And that is so unfortunate because they have not been able to come and level with the people. Of course, we have to wait until the budget at the end of this year to see exactly how deep in the red not only the federal government has become, but the Nevis Island administration. And so it's a matter of desperation. These people at Destiny, they have not hidden their agenda. They themselves have said that they are targeting governments that are broke and are in financial crisis. And that is exactly the position in which we find ourselves today, because we have mismanaged the funds that we have collected from CBI over the years. If I may add, just in 5 years between 2019 and 2024, CBI would have collected in just the processing fees close to $3 billion. And we are still today scrambling, cannot provide the basics for our people in terms of education, in terms of health care, in terms of our infrastructure. Because we are a people, we have lands, and that is the only resource we seem to have outside of our people and the potential for geothermal. And we have said we have no problems with development because on our platform, we have always seen the potential of geothermal to push us further, give us that thrust that we need to get to a different level of providing for our people. And had our present government pursued that, we would not be in the pickle that we are in now, because now they're saying they're looking for a game changer. And who we are looking to give for this game changer? Billionaires who have no regards and very secretive about what they're doing. We cannot sit here today and tell you what the major economic activity on that piece of rock of Nevis that they have targeted, what are they going to be doing there? but they're advertising for jobs. Everybody wants jobs. You can apply. The amount of jobs that they say they're going to be having, I think the whole of Barbados can come here and get jobs.
Hmm.
But that
It's
is
the
how they're
same.
trying to butter it up.
Dr. Bartlett, it's the same playbook here because, we're seeing a lot of our coastal lands being sold to foreign investors, billionaires. Are buying up our lands in Barbados. The East Coast is sold. Lots of the West Coast. They're selling out the South Coast, all the coastal areas. And what we're finding is that we're being pushed, it appears that we're being pushed inland. And I'm looking at your dates there, a lot of what happened to us, Honorable Daniel-Hodge, happened in the 2021, 2022, during the COVID period. They did a lot of things happen, very secretive, that happened. And then we got wind of it. And so we're listening, and as Michelle is saying, do you hear this, Barbados? Do you hear this? This is a very, very serious situation that we're in. Dave, if you could just play a little bit before I get back to Honorable Daniel-Hodge, if you could play a little bit of that video so people will see the seriousness of
of
these
these
predators.
predators.
Hello, fellow Nivishes and Kititians. My name is Olivier Janssens, and I'm the founder of Destiny. I have been proud to call myself a Nivishan for almost a decade now, and in that time, I have come to see both the challenges and the immense opportunities of our island. Around the world, special economic zones have transformed entire nations. Dubai is perhaps the clearest example. What was once a small trading port is now a global hub of wealth, innovation, and opportunity. Europe has Monaco, and the Middle East has Dubai, but the Americas still lack their own equivalent. I believe Nevis can seize that role. The first country in the Caribbean to create a modern zone of this kind will not only uplift its people, but could become one of the wealthiest and most desirable regions in the world. When I looked at Nevis, I saw a place ready for transformation. The southern corridor of the island is today completely undeveloped and sadly in decline. Erosion eats away more land each year. Yet this very area, if properly managed, holds the potential to become the engine of Nevis's future. Today, I would like to share with you what we have envisioned for this project and what Destiny can become.
Yeah,
And how
we have to pause it. Yes, the reason for that is the copyright, the music, because they put on this music, this all of this music now to draw us in, and all of that. We played it the other night, and we had a little challenge with Facebook, but we took the chance of playing it so that people will see, those who were not on the other night, when we were on, I think it was Monday night, that people will be able to see exactly what we're speaking about, Honorable Daniel-Hodge, and the seriousness of this, because this gentleman is very serious. He's talking about economic zones. I hear the word zone several times, modern zone. And I tell you, Honorable Daniel-Hodge, and he talked about Dubai. Our Prime Minister, I don't know if Dave can put it up, but she talks about free zone, setting up a special zone for these elites. And so it seems as though, and we'll ask the questions on this show, are we going the way of Nevis? Are we going the way of St. Kitts? Is this what is happening to us? We have to pause sorry, we're taking a little of your time because to ask about ourselves, because this is scary. This is her here, and I know you guys probably love her a lot in Nevis because of her speeches. But the reality is, on the ground here, is that she is behaving the same way as your premier in Nevis, where all these bills, we know nothing about it. The exact scenario of the bills, ladies, being brought just after your big festival in Nevis is exactly the same thing. that Honorable Prime Minister Mia Mottley did in Barbados. She is absolutely no different from the premier of Nevis, and I believe that is where we're going. But let me leave our business a little bit and ask Honorable Daniel-Hodge, do you have the support of the people? Do the people, you call them Nevisians?
Divisions, divisions.
Nevisians. Nevisians. This man, who he said he's been a Nevision for 10 years. You see, through the CBI. What are you doing turning off with Nevision? With that accent. I'm sorry, I'm Jamaican. I went off with my Jamaican accent. I mean, and so what are the Nevisians saying about what is going on?
I think across the board, we're seeing more and more divisions recognizing that where we're heading is not where we want to go. And it is quite unfortunate that we here in Nevis, the government, has not been able to put a plan in place, has not been able to express a vision and to indicate this is the direction in which we want to take Nevis. We have seen it over and over again where people can come in and the government goes in the direction that they want to go. Rather than saying, for example, this is what we want to do in Nevis, and we're inviting investors to come in and help us to accomplish this goal, right? And so you would have heard the gentleman indicate that he sees Nevis ripe for transformation. And he has, he knows what he wants to do. So it seems as if the premier is just going along with this gentleman with regards to what he would like to see in Nevis. We're hearing it loud and clear. We love Nevis. Nevis has been known for its natural beauty for all of these years. And for somebody to come in and say, well, Nevis needs to be like Dubai, or Nevis needs to be like Monaco. This is not what the people of Nevis want or aspiring towards. And so the problem continues because the premier has not been able to set a clear pathway and attract investors to deliver what we would want in that area. And so it just about everything that you have seen. And I think one of the major concerns that the people of Nevis would have is that the premier has not been able to complete projects on a whether it's an acre or 2 acres, small projects, he has not been able to complete. We have had a hospital project that has been ongoing now for over almost 8 years, and he has not been able to complete that project. And so the question is, do we really want the south of Nevis, 3.25 square miles, to be caught up in a, incomplete type of project? Because without having that clear direction and people coming in and saying what they want, I will tell you, we know that most development proposals, they would require, under our existing planning ordinance, you can require a development bond, so that if you do not complete the development as you're supposed to, that bond can kick in to finish the development. Here, what we're seeing is that if the government does not deliver what they're supposed to deliver, the government can be penalized. And I am trying to figure out, what is it the government has to deliver that they can be penalized? And what do we have? When you're looking at 2,400 acres, and if the development is not complete, all of that would be under one person's control. And we have not seen where we can say we have proof or evidence that this development can be completed. But the bottom line is, why is so much land necessary in the first instance? We have our Four Seasons Resort here, major employer outside of government, did not require any special zone. We know governments across the Caribbean, they would provide different concessions and incentives. You don't need new legislation for that. You don't need to give these companies exempt from your existing laws. So how can we here be living in Nevis under one set of laws, and in this little section of Nevis, they're not subject to the laws of our country? So these are the issues and the concerns that we have. And while the Premier would go to great lengths to tell you that the legislation does not speak to the word sovereignty, right? When you look at the legislation and all of the provisions, it adds up to having a state within a state.
Mm-hmm.
And the unfortunate thing is that this legislation was just passed in August. No legislation has been developed, no guidelines, no standardization. And so it's as if the Premier is just taking this project on a sort of ad hoc basis and make up the rules as he goes along. And so what happens when a next application comes in? There are no guidelines, there are no standards to say this is how we would develop special sustainability zones. So it's all going to be left up to a matter of discretion.
Yes.
And when politicians have too much discretion, what happens after that, right? Because we have our physical planning department that is responsible for development on Nevis.
Yes.
With new legislation, the power is with the Premier and the Prime Minister. They are the ones responsible for making the decisions. Our planning department is out of the special sustainability zone development process.
Explain, what do you mean? The planning, I don't understand what you just said there.
What I just said is that based on the Special Sustainability Zone Authorization Act,
yes,
the proposal is to be submitted to the Premier.
Yes.
The Premier, he's supposed to establish an oversight body, which he has not done at this point. So he and his cabinet are the ones responsible for reviewing the proposal and then to make a recommendation to the Prime Minister. Right? Ordinarily, you want to develop, your proposal would be submitted to the Department of Physical Planning.
Right? Yes.
And yes, so with these special zones, based on the legislation, they do not go to the planning department.
I am sorry.
Marcia, can I add something?
Dr. Bartlette, you see me laughing here. And oh my goodness, Barbados, did you hear that? It's the same playbook. So in our case, our PM, she put herself over the planning, that physical planning department. Okay. So that, and she gives the okay on everything that comes through her friends. And oh my goodness, this is crazy. Continue, Dr. Let me just let Honorable Daniel-Hodge complete what she's saying, and then I'll go to Dr. Bartlette.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is, based on this new legislation, it has just turned everything upside down, because during the planning process, the public participation, public consultation would be mandatory for a project like this, and the people would have been involved before you get to the point of signing development agreements, etc. And so, as I said earlier, the public has been shut out. We only hear what the Premier wants to give, when he wants to give a little bit of information, and then he expects the people to embrace this development. People have been deceived from the very beginning with the sale of lands. People have felt betrayed with the passage of the Special Sustainability Zone legislation. And so whatever the Premier has to say now regarding the proposal is not trustworthy. People are not believing him because he has all of this secrecy leading up to where we are now. And we have seen that he's not able to deliver complete projects. And we have no confidence that he will be able to see this project through, especially when he has left out the technical persons that you would need to ensure that the necessary provisions are in place.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Let me hear Dr. Bartlett. Oh my goodness, we went over time, and I didn't even, because
Mm.
this is gut wrenching, ladies. Honestly, I'm without words. I am
Yes.
without words. I watched the video, and I'm wondering, is it, Dr. Bartlett, I was wondering if it's being exaggerated. But listening to you guys, it's worse. Dr. Bartlett, you had something you wanted to
Yes,
say.
with all respect for your time, I just wanted to augment a point that my leader made as it relates to the powers of the premier and the oversight body. What she forgot to mention was that the premier may, he's not compelled to, but he may establish an oversight body. So
Wow.
legislation gives him, wide latitude on that one. So he not having the involvement of the planning department and having the option to may or may not appoint this oversight body. It means that essentially, chances are the billionaires are going to get what they want, and no one would be monitoring what they're doing.
What they're doing.
Essentially, that's what it
Yeah,
means
let
to
me
be
ask,
going through.
what is
So
this is basically what is set up here, because in Barbados we have a one woman show. We have a prime minister that is either directly involved, or she is she's over probably about 7 ministries. Try to imagine that. Okay, so she has her hands in everything. And in ours, we used to call it the town and country planning, and they have now changed it to planning and development. And so she has her hands in those, all the projects. So she sign off on all of these different things. So it's a very, very similar thing where it's a one woman show and in this particular instance in Nevis, it's a one man show, because he doesn't even have to go to the oversight body. He may,
yes,
and then he's bypassing your own planning and development. It is this is so mm. Someone put I forgot the question I was going to ask, but someone had a comment saying, but it seemed to be a Nevisian saying that the people are unconcerned in
yes,
it. They're going
I
about
saw
their
that.
daily lives, and they could not care less. Is that
I
Dr.
saw that.
Bartlett?
So if you would let me, please, I saw it and I flagged it and I wanted to respond to it, and I thought
Yes.
maybe in this summation that I would be able to do that. But yes, he said that people don't care. But it is not correct to say that people don't care. In Nevis, we have a very reserved population. People don't openly express how they feel about things. They would tell you in confidence how they feel about matters. But we are so confident that the people, and I know you asked the question about the sentiment of our people, how do they feel about it? And I'm telling you that I have the level of confidence to challenge the Premier to say, if indeed you think that the people really want your project, call an election. Then make that the only issue on the ballot. And let us call an election based on that. Because I have the level of confidence in the feedback that I've been getting that generally divisions do not want this, not in Nevis, not in the diaspora. And the thing is, the person who said that people don't care, I know that he cares. He's a division, and I know that he cares. And there are many like him out there who care. And the problem is that I have with this developer is that he has decided that Nevis needs a transformation, and without consulting with us, he has decided what that transformation is going to be, what it looks like. I still don't know what his transformation is going to look like, but he wants to impose that because he has been a citizen since 2014. No, I've been a citizen since 1961, and I don't have that level. I don't have that level of bombast. I don't know exactly what my people want. So I speak to them. I have conversations with them. And that is why I want to be able to represent them, because I have an intimate relationship with my people. And so I'd be able to convey that to the wider world. But he's speaking on behalf of our 13,000 people in Nevis. And by extension, you have another, it's 51,000 people in St. Kitts Nevis. And he's making that decision. And I've been offended when he made this statement. I was offended. And I know a lot of other divisions like-minded who have been offended by this position that he has taken. that the transformation that he brings is what we want without consulting with us. And then, if I may, and I see we're wrapping up, the concerns I think that any other jurisdiction should have as it relates to CBI is that we have some attendant issues associated with the CBI that should not be ignored. We have the issue of the easy access to our politicians, because the way this saga started, it seems to have started with not the premier himself being approached by an investor, but by his wife. She has no business in government, but the wife of the premier is the one who is at the genesis of what we're seeing today. And putting that aside, we have to make sure that we have, in Nevis, we do not have campaign finance laws. And so any other jurisdiction who are minded to go this way, those are the things that they must put in place, because we have fallen victim to those kind of things. In addition, there have been no quotas associated with the number of passports that we are selling here. And so from 1984 up until now, we have already sold, like I said before, 50,000, and there is no cap on how many more passports we can sell. And we have already addressed the implications of that for our elections and for the people who live here. And in addition to that, and it will be my last point, there's no limit on the acreage that any person could buy as a citizen. And so these people buy citizenship and then they buy the lands. And so that is the case that we've been making, that this is an existential threat to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, not just Nevis. Thank you.
But oh my goodness. So let me ask you, Honorable Daniel-Hodge. I know I have you. Please bear with us, because we are just frightened right about now. Honorable Daniel-Hodge, what's the makeup of your opposition? How many do you have in St. Kitts, and how many do you have in Nevis? Because I'm saying, if this bill was passed in weeks like that in Barbados, we only have our, we have the one person who crossed the floor, Honorable Rod Thorne. And so I want to know, Honorable, tell me how many, what's the makeup?
Well, you see, in the National Assembly, you
Yes.
have 11 seats. The opposition has 5 seats, right? 3 of which belongs to the Premier of Nevis.
Oh.
Right? And then on the government side, they have 6 seats. But it is interesting, as Dr. Bartlette mentioned earlier, the bill that was moved by the Prime Minister was seconded by the leader of the opposition.
Right. I see what you're saying. Oh, you
Right?
goose cook. You goose cook.
And so we have been saying we have 2 options. One, for the bill to be repealed, well, for the legislation to be repealed, but you can see the Premier, who is really the one behind the legislation, he has 3 of the 5 on the opposition benches, right? And so the bill was passed in the National Assembly. So that is where any repealing would have to be done. It is very unlikely that the Prime Minister would, move to repeal a bill that he passed. Excuse me, but I do think it may seem a bit challenging now, but I do believe that in the best interest of the country, it would be the better option to pursue at this time, because even in St. Kitts, the Prime Minister is having town hall meetings at this time, right? So the information that is being gathered now, unless there is some intention to repeal the bill, all of the provisions that would allow for a new sovereign state to be established, all of those provisions would need to be removed. The provision with regards to the Prime Minister having ultimate authority over special sustainability zones in Nevis, that needs to be corrected as well. And
Yes,
so
because you're supposed to be over your lands in Nevis, land affairs.
exactly.
Right. I
Exactly.
remember from my notes.
Yes.
Wow. This is wow.
Yes. So
I,
I am going to have to leave shortly, but what I would like to say is that it is unfortunate when our elected leaders cannot determine the direction in which they want to lead our people.
yes.
And so they end up being led to the detriment of the people that elected to serve them. And based on what we are seeing right now, based on what is happening with the special sustainability zone, based on all the things that we have looked at, as my colleague said, you would have had, certain QCs and different lawyers speaking out about the constitutionality of the legislation. But it seems that our premier, this special sustainability zone, is on Nevis, and it seems as if he's quite content to say that the legislation was passed in the National Assembly
Mm-hmm.
and he has nothing to do with that. It's quite interesting what has emerged since that bill was passed in terms of who has certain responsibilities. But the bottom line is, if the Premier does not have the vision as to how we can utilize the lands on Nevis for present and future generations, then, as we have been saying, he needs to step aside. Because if it is that you cannot attract the type of investors that would bring the type of development where you do not have to go down this road, then you need to step aside.
Yes.
We in the NRP, we have ideas, we have vision. We do not feel that we have too much land to utilize. When we speak about sustainability, we speak about food security as well. We
Mm-hmm.
speak about our current and future generations having the ability to own their homes, having a certain standard of living here on Nevis. Imagine you're going to have a special sustainability zone where you have top class facilities, hospital, power generation, etc. And just across, you have the people of Nevis who don't know how we're going to manage. It is not right. Some people have likened the situation to going back to apartheid. And it is really an indication that the premier really has lost his way for him to be able to be accepting this type of proposal and advocating for it so much in the midst of so much resistance from his people.